must perish.
We live in a place now that feels just about like a plantation. We're all indentured servants. You know, when I found out there were 8 presidents before George Washington, I wanted to smack somebody. You know, I wanted to know why I was taught otherwise. Just tell me the whole story. I'll fill in the blanks, but don't tell me something that you think I'm supposed to.
Hear my song for Stephen Lawrence, a fine young British boy.
We want to make it clear to black youth that if they want to be revolutionaries, they will be dead revolutionaries.
And this is the real. Is speak to you a little bit more about karma. It's something which we all need to think about. Karma. Is what happens to you a result of what I have done? Is what happens to me a result of what I have done? Or is what happens to you a result of what you've done? Is what happens to us a result of what we've done? Or is it a result of cosmic, karmic coincidence? Or is it a result of the theory of chaos? Or is it a result of a happen chance and happenstance? Is it just coincidence? Is it just a coincidence that the most dirt-hard people in the face of the earth, the ones that worship gold, the ones that worship money, the ones that deal in drugs, are the ones that seem to be the most successful? Is it just coincidence? No, it's not coincidence. The reason I will say it's not coincidence is because this world where we live, this plane where we all live, this material physical existence that we all enjoy, is ruled by the material God. Is ruled by the money. Is ruled by money. Cash money is ruled by the cream. Cash rules everything around me. By the cream and the dream. So, I ask you the question again. Is what happens to us, is what happens to you, is what happened to me the result of what I've done? Is it the result of what you've done? Is it the result of what we've done? Previous weeks, if you've listened to the More Raw Than What You Bargained For late night Wednesday evening show with me, Anthony Olatunji, in collaboration with It's Not Me, It's You Honest, with Insite Radio, serving as the gateway to the Nottingham, to the African Caribbean community in Nottingham, in the East Midlands, in the England, in the land of the sinking sand, and over to our brothers and sisters, the United Snakes of America, and to our brothers and sisters over in the motherland, the fatherland, Al Kebulan, or Africa, no matter which part them did it, no matter which part you're from, we're serving you. And what you've heard me say previously in the past, and this will stand as a testament to the truth and to how I feel and what's real. And that is, what you do, what happens to you as an individual is a microcosm of what happens to us, of what we go through universally as a people. Now you can apply that to the individual, into society, or from the individual into the race, into the individual, into humanity. You can apply that wherever you feel or think that it applies. But I've got a very simplistic and naturalistic view of an otherwise purely material world. My ideas are quite romantic according to some. I have the notion that in ancient times, in years and the days of the millennia and eons gone by, I had the belief, I have the feeling, I have the notion that the ancients, that our people back in the day used to be a very beneficent people. They used to worship the God, and that the world was very slightly different. Very highly different. It used to be a spiritually based world. A naturalistic based world. It used to be a maternal society. Where the roles in society, where the rules in society came through the woman. Where the power came through the woman. Matriarchal, matrifocal. Where the kings and the queens came through the woman. That the woman, the daughter, the mother, the ma'at, the moon, the goddess, was in charge, that the Queen was in charge, and she had every right to stand up and do as she would as any other man. In fact, she had more, because she gave birth to the first and birth to them all. So I have this quite naturalistic, simplistic, even spiritualistic view of history and reality. And that is that way back in the day, maybe not even so long ago, let's say before the time when the European came and stole the artifacts and stole the scrolls and stole the secrets of the systems, of the mystery systems in ancient Kemet. Before then, the systems of life and liberty and society that we had was a very beneficent system, was a very highly advanced form of system. I say it was advanced because, hey, in the face of reality, no matter what I think, no matter what you think, there are certain structures in Egypt, in ancient Kemet, in ancient Southern America, in Tameri. Certain structures that were erected, certain structures that were built, which even to this day, with all our so-called technological advancement, with all of our so-called computerization and automation and mechanization and industrialization, we cannot even repeat some of the great feats and some of the great magnificent tasks that were done in order to construct the monuments of millennia ago, of thousands of years ago. So then, my question is this. If I've heard many Europeans say, because it's part and parcel of the theory, it's part and parcel of the mythology of white supremacy, that look, white people invented everything. White people are the inventors of how to split the atom, how to isolate the atom, and how to understand proper physics and mathematics and astrology and whatever, and mechanization and whatever. I'll say this, if you think that the white people are the Europeans and European pedagogy or European ideology or European westernization and materialism or Marxism or capitalism, whatever kind of ism or ideology you want to say that's more advanced. If you want to think that it's more advanced than the ancient ideologies and lifestyles, then I will say, please show us your wonder of the world. Show us the epitome of your contribution to humanity. Show us your magnificent monuments. Show us your ancient pyramids. All they got is a bunch of ruins, which were not even left by them anyway. They were left by ancient druids. We're talking about Stonehenge right now, fams. And they have certain mounds. But no matter where you go within the geographical plane known as Europe, you will find signs left behind by the ancient Africans. You will find pyramids in Bulgaria. You will find pyramids in Serbia. You will find underground catacombs throughout Spain. You will find underground passageways between Turkey and Greece and Turkey and Egypt. All of these things were constructed by the ancients with technology that what the Europeans misnomer as primitive people used. If we were so primitive, if we were so backward, if we were so unadvanced and undeveloped, how is it that we had monuments and statues and pyramids all across the face of the earth that these people cannot even repeat or compare with to this day? Come on, I'm waiting for an answer. I'm waiting for you to hazard a guess and say, look, it's because of X, Y, and Z. I'll tell you what the reality is, family, in my humble opinion. And that is that the systems that we used were not only pictorial systems or hieroglyphic systems. It wasn't only the medunetta or the secret unspoken words. It wasn't only the secret languages of the so-called gods. We use this thing called the oral tradition, which to the Europeans was a system of mystery. But if you break down the term mystery, it's like my story, M-Y, mystery, my story. So my story is always going to be a mystery to those who want to steal and redefine real history. So history is his story. Well, our story, my story, is always going to be a mystery to those on the outside. From the time you're on the inside, you have to, understand certain key principles. That it's blood over intent. That it's family before foe. That it's spiritual before physical. That it's spiritual before material. That you reap what you sow. That what comes from your mouth will manifest. What is inside the depths of your brain will become made manifest in the physical plane. Now, I'm not playing with you. I'm not saying what I'm saying just to provoke some vain antagonism or some vainglorious BS. No, blessed. You could say what I'm saying is occult. You could say what I'm saying is esoteric. You could say what I'm saying is just fluff and stuff. Say whatever. But when the Europeans came to ancient Kemet, they came upon systems of oral traditions and of pictorial pictograms and hieroglyphs that were very strange to them, which they didn't know next to nothing about. They were baffled by the amazing monuments and statues and metals and precious stones which they found around and abound. So they begged to be taught. And have you ever seen one of those martial art films where one of the students comes to the door of the masters or the Shaolin temple, for example, and says, please masters, teach me. And then the masters will say to the wannabe student, we're not going to teach you, go away. And send them away, send them back. And then the wannabe student will come back again. Please master, teach me. And then the master will say, well, we need to know what's in your heart. And if what was in their heart was malfeasance or malevolence or wickedness or hatred or revenge, for example, somebody will have their family killed and they want to go and learn martial arts so they can go and kill, then the masters will say, no, we're not going to teach you. Similarly, the ancient systems of the mystery systems in ancient Kemet, similar things. And as one of the theories, one of the realities is that before you could graduate 1 degree in the systems of the mysteries, you would have to spend, I don't know for 1 degree, something like 40 years. 40 years, beloved, for 1 degree. And these neophytes or these acolytes or these wannabe students that came from Greece and Rome and Europe and different parts and from Arabia and from the Persian Peninsula and from wherever and from the Indus Kush Valley, they would have to spend a heck of a long time wishing on a star and wishing to be who you are before they were given the time of day, before they were given a treat to play. They would have to spend so long. But there were some of these people that we let in. And you can see, if you look back in history, that the ones that we let in, they became European so-called icons. They became European giants. People like, Pythagoras, people like Aristotle, people like Herodotus, people like Plato. But these few individuals that we let come through, we only left them with 1 or 2 or 3 degrees. And they became giants because they stood on the back, on the shoulders of those that came before them. They didn't come to Europe and fathom out the size and the structure and the function of the atom all by themselves. Oh, bless. Little did they know before they came upon us. So it was the Africans. If you listen to John Henry Clark, if you listen to Baba Henry Clark, if you listen to Brother Ivan Sertima, if you listen to some of our elder scholar warriors, they would tell you the Africans, the Comitians, were the mothers and fathers of civilization. Africans were the founders of Europe through the Moors, through the Berbers. They were the founders of socialization and civilization in Tameri, in America, southern. They were the founders of civilization in the Indus Kush Valley. They were the founders of civilization in the Indonesian Peninsula, throughout Melanesia, throughout Polynesia, throughout Australia, throughout everywhere in the world. It was the ancient Comitians, the ancient Africans, the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Ethiopians who went around the earth, who went around the globe, who went to the four corners of the earth and taught civility and civilization and socialization and taught the meaning of life, taught the secrets of life. One of our master teachers was a brother who was known to them as Imhotep, Amenhotep. And a lot of people misnomer him to be, the personage of Tehuti or the personage of Thoth. And the Greco-Latin terminology for Thoth or for Tehuti was Hermes or Hermes Trismegistus. That's what I'm calling him. So we taught these Europeans. And all of these Europeans, they became adepts in a system which was known to us on a 360-degree basis, on a full knowledge. Put it like this, yeah? A child comes into the earth full of life, full of potential, full of the spirit of life and longevity and love. And this is the essence of life itself. Then we go through the rest of our life trying to find life again. Certain times you will get certain truths spoken out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, because through their innocence, through their purity, they say certain words which have surety, that have levity, that have power. So, when these Europeans came to the ancient Cometians, at first they came like babies and children, wanting to learn. But then when we gave them a few degrees of knowledge, they took that knowledge. And what did they do with it? Pythagoras was an adept, was a Freemason. Galileo was a Freemason. Da Vinci was a Mason. Isaac Newton.
Yes!
Isaac Newton, who they herald to be the father of Western philosophy and science and metaphysics and what have you. Isaac Newton, if you looking to do a Google on Isaac Newton and put Isaac Newton and alchemy. Alchemy is chemi came from Kemet. So when I'm telling you about the ancient Kemetans, taught the Europeans. It's not my point of view. It's written in history for you to see, if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear and a heart to feel for what's real, rather than just be blind, deaf and dumb by the scum of the mainstream daydream, poison stream media, modern media. Pythagoras, again. So if you look at Isaac Newton, do a Google on Isaac Newton, put Isaac Newton and alchemy. You will find certain references to the fact that Isaac Newton spent the majority of his time trying to decipher and decode the ancient scripts of the Medunetta, the ancient scripts and the hieroglyphics and the pictographs from Kemet, from Egypt. Isaac Newton spent the majority of his life trying to decipher numerology, trying to decipher hieroglyphs, trying to decipher what they called spells, trying to decipher codes, alchemical codes. When you come through the ages, you'll see basically all the so-called founding fathers of America had influence from the Moorish temple or from the ancient Committans. They were all Freemasons. They were all Masons. Washington, Taft, William Taft, Franklin Roosevelt. These are all people that were part of the cliques and the clan. You get down to, I spoke about him last week on the More Raw Than What You Bargained For late night Wednesday evening show. Benjamin Franklin was an adept. But what these Europeans tend to do, and this is a testament to their shallow nature, is that they take what they're being taught about the spiritual realm and just apply everything to the physical realm, to the material realm. Benjamin Franklin, for example, was a member of the Hellfire Club. And if you do a Google search into the Hellfire Club, you'll be shocked and you'll be dismayed at what you find, because it wasn't very nice. Similarly with Pythagoras, with Copernicus, with Isaac Newton, a lot of what they did with the knowledge we gave to them was to abuse it and confuse it for their own personal use. But let me get back down to the heart of the matter, the fact that what I want to speak to you about this evening, family, what I want to construct and build on is this thing called karma. Karma. Is what happens to me, is what happens to you a result of what I've done? Is it a result of what you've done? It's a question. It's a question which is, it's important for us to think about. Is what happens to me a result of what I've done? So, to the Muslims and the Christians and the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Sikhs, different religions, different people that follow different philosophy will have different ideas about that particular question. Is what happens to me a result of what I've done? But I'm not talking about religion. You can, like I try to leave your religion at home. Because a religion is something which is made by man. And it's a system set in stone by man. I'm talking about issues of, let's just call it, for simplicity, spirituality. That no matter what your religion is, you can consider these issues of consciousness and spirituality. And obviously, if you're of a particular religious hue or of a particular religious leaning, then you might apply your considerations and your thoughts to this question according to what your religious bents are. But I'm not trying to discuss religion, family. I'm trying to discuss consciousness raising and spirituality, family. And yes, there is. I started off saying, look, my angle is quite simplistic and naturalistic. Because I'm a simple man. Let's just go back into this question of karma. Let's just investigate this question of karma.
The principle of cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. This principle embodies the fact that there is a cause for every effect, an effect from every cause. It explains that everything happens according to law, that nothing ever merely happens, that there is no such thing as chance, that while there are various planes of cause and effect, the higher dominating the lower planes, still nothing ever entirely escapes the law.
Is what happens to you a result of your environment? Or is what happens to you a result of cosmic coincidence or social situations? Is it the nature or is it the nurture side of the argument that you want to lean on, that you want to lean for? What do you think? Do you think you are who you are and what you are because of things that happened before, that it's predestined? That you are who you are and what you are because of things that happened before you came here? Or do you think you are what you are because of the way that you've been educated, because of the way that you've developed yourself? You know, it's an important question. Because when I say to you that, look, the history of the European is not as mighty as what they try and paint it to be, that they try and lay claim to their innovations for themselves. Pythagoras and a lot of these Europeans say, look, we are the inventors of modern society and we did this, we did that, all by ourselves. Then that belies the fact that they stood on the shoulders of giants. That belies the fact that they were given the keys to the earth and to the universe, only for them to go and abuse the positions of power which they were given by virtue of being given that 1 or 2 or 45 degrees of knowledge which they took, which they learnt, which they stole, and which consequently then they burnt in the university and libraries of Timbuktu and what they call the libraries of Alexandria, where they ransacked the knowledge. They stole certain keys, stole certain knowledge, stole certain science, stole certain scrolls and graphs and maths and what have you. Just, if you think I'm talking fluff, go into any museum of Mankind in London, go to a museum in Nottingham, in Derby, in any major city in New York, Paris, Rome. They have thousands upon thousands of artifacts and sculptures and statues which were the highest form of art for thousands of years. And how are you going to construct such magnificent monuments and statues of art if you don't have a high culture, if you don't have a high moral fabric, if you don't have a high spiritual basis? What they try and say, the pictures they try and draw of the ancient Egyptians, of the ancient Kemetans, is that they were bloodthirsty, devil worshipping, child sacrificing, polytheistic maniacs who built statues and images of craven gods and goddesses and faced the wrath of God as a consequence thereof. Now, according to your religious efficacy, you can take whatever view of those historical factors that you so decide to. But all I'm saying is that, look, you don't judge a man by his story. You don't judge a man by history. You judge a man by my story. And what is my story? You judge him by the mystery. But you can look in a man's eye. You know, a lot of these, let's just check it like this. A lot of these politicians, they will say certain things. And you won't know that they're lying. But you know that a politician is a dirty, rotten scoundrel. You know that a politician is a paid performance puppeteer and a bloodsucker of the poor. So you know they're going to lie. So when a liar lies to you, don't listen to what they say. You'd be better off, you'd be wiser to feel what they say, to look into their eyes and to see where the truth lies.
If you look at the polling, and a lot of people in your party are very excited about this, if you went to the country now, you get a majority of something like 114 or 130. and that seems a wonderful opportunity for you. Are you tempted in any way to call a snap election?
I think what's important...
Let's be honest, there was never any danger of that knackered old goat giving a straightforward answer. That we should go snorkeling and avoid getting wet, fam.
And we'll be continuing the manifesto on which the Conservative government was elected in 2015.
Hold on, not only did they not give a fuck manifesto promises, and yeah, you got elected in 2015, but I'm pretty sure you're under investigation for fraud. Minor details.
So I don't think there's a need for an election. I think the next election would be in 2020.
Cool, 2020 it is then.
Let me make this very clear, because again, it's very important.
You see when the man has to clarify, because he knows these Tories are seasoned buggers.
Under current law, the next election will be in 2020. No ifs, no buts, no snap elections, no changing the law. Under you, is that absolutely certain, that we're not going to see an election before 2020?
I'm not going to be calling a snap election. I've been very clear.
She can make it as clear as she wants. Her word's about as reliable as a pair of fat knees on a treadmill.
I have just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet where we agreed that the government should call a general election to be held on the 8th of June.
Raw, cocaine is a hell of a drug, fam.
To see where the truth dwells. To see what it is they're going to say, and to see what it is they want to play, and to see what it is they want to sell. So when we look into my story, when we look into the story, when we look into the realities, hey, then we see something differently. For example, if you look at let's just look at some of these, there's quite a few ruins throughout England, quite a few ruins throughout Europe of these ancient, not even ancient, they're only like 300-400 years old, of these old cathedrals and churches and monasteries and these other places where people get buried, and there's quite a few of them. If you go and check out those monasteries, you will see that they were built off a certain principle. They were built to a certain standard. But the standard that they were built to is that, by and large, the majority of them are fallen down. They're just crumbled. They're just rocks. They're just, a few, you have the odd wall here, you have the odd thing over there, and what have you. It's basically ruins, bless. But then if you compare those to our ancient statues, there's no comparison. You can't compare. Furthermore, if you look into some of the ancient even modern churches, call them the modern last 200 years, you can see that their palaces and the churches are laced with symbols of Satanism. I remember I went to a Church of England school when I was a child. And at this school, demons. I remember blatantly, at this school, if you looked at the top of the church on the outside, you will see that there was these little devilish looking statues, these little devilish looking effigies, these little devilish looking gargoyles and dragons and demons and all sorts of gothic and mad, wicked, quite horrible looking things. Now, to me, if you see a devil, if you see a demon, and you recognize that devil to be a demon or a gargoyle or a malevolent spirit, then you call a spade a spade. Now, they say they built these churches for the worship of God. But then if you look into Masonry and Freemasonry, which are two distinct but very related things, then you will see that their history and their story is, let's just say, even though they profess to worship the one God, it may not be the same God that you worship. You know, in ancient Egypt in Kemet, there's a picture of Osiris and his brother. Osiris was the sun, the day, the light, and his brother was Set, or the jackal, pictured by a jackal. The dog. Jackal is a dog. And the dog was the personage, was the effigy of the earth. And if you put the word dog in a mirror, it says God. It's the opposite. Dog is the opposite of God. So I'm not trying to belittle anybody's religion. Don't take it personally, because I'm not discussing religion. But there are those that say that the Masons and Freemasons and those in the Illuminati who profess to be doing God's work are in fact doing the work of the devil, jackal dog. Now you can take that or you can leave that alone. But you don't judge a man. You don't judge a man by the words that he speaks or the truth that he shares. You judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. You understand that, family? So when these Europeans claim to be the masters and the epitome of civilization, show me somewhere, please, I beg you, where their civilization is so masterful, so beneficent, so merciful. Because these Europeans, they don't even have mercy on their own Europeans. And when these Europeans left their ports to go to Africa, to go to Tamari, to go to South America, to go to India, to go to Asia, to go to Andalusia, to go to Australia, they had no mercy to any land that they found. They had no mercy on any individuals they found in any place in the face of the earth. None. So let's call a spade a spade. And if in their churches you see these demons and these gargoyles and these devils, which to me I was quite scared as a child. I used to look up and I used to shake in fear inside the churches, high up in the rafters. You see these gargoyles to Rekabombarah. And then outside the church, you see these gargoyles, and I would ask the priest, because it bothered me. And I was one of these children, I would ask the most simplest and stupidest questions. But if you know in ancient Kemet, they say a child that asks questions is not stupid. But they used to look at me like I was stupid because I'm asking. I'd be like, yo, excuse me, priest, excuse me, preacher. And he'd be like, yeah, come over here and sit on my lap. No, thank you, sir. Excuse me, sir. But why have you got those devils? Why have you got those gargoyles? Why have you got those demons high up on the church? And they would tell me stuff like this. Well, they're there to ward off evil spirits. And I'm like, that's incredulous. I didn't know as a child that was just BS. But it sounded like BS. And it felt like BS because I just couldn't work out the logic of that. Now, when you have a room full of darkness, all you need to do is light a candle and the room is full of light. So what I mean by that, family, is that if you want to ward off evil spirits, if you want to purify your heart, if you want to speak words of power and words of truth, if you want to produce youth with juice, if you want to have the God manifest in your life, then all you need to do is do good works. All you need to do is say the truth. So therefore, if you want to ward off the evil spirits, you put God in your heart. You don't build these images. You don't put these craven images before the altar of God.
Demons, demons, demons.
And I'm sure it says somewhere on the 10 Commandments, which we went through last week or the week before on the late night More Raw Than What You Bargained For show, that thou shalt have no craven images before me. And yet you go to bare churches and you will see these craven images, these gargoyle images, these demonic images laid bare in front of the place and the altar of the Lord. Now if that is not a sacrilege, then, you know, like I said, family, I'm just a simple brother. I'm just a simple man. Who am I to say what is and what isn't? But let's get back down to the heart of the matter. Karma. Are we suffering nowadays, family, because of things that we did way back? There are some people that tell you that the tribe of the Hamitic people, the sons of Ham, are going through Bedlam nowadays, are going through Gollum nowadays, are going through Rufus nowadays because of what happened to the son of, was it Noah or Moses? What happened to one of the sons of the patriarch who saw his father's nakedness and saw that he was naked and laughed at him and what have you, some stupidness from some old fable. Now, I don't want to belittle your religious belief, but if you want to tell me that because of some geezer 6,000, 2,000 years ago, millions of Africans have been murdered, maimed and tortured because of the laughter of some geezer, we have been bound by biblical stupidness into a livelihood of karmic misery in perpetuity, then I'll say, you know what, you take your book and you know what to do with it, because it's not for me. So karma, is it a real thing? Is it a real thing? These questions I'm asking you because we need to know if we're living true, what we're living through today as a result of karma or as a result of, I'll call it Kingu and the veil or the spell of Leviathan. I call it the spell of Kingu. You know, the spell of sleepfulness, the spell of stupidness, the spell of forgetfulness, that you just don't have any goddamn common sense. And that's why we're going through what we're going through now. It's only common sense to feed your own family. It's only common sense to help to feed the poor. It's only common sense to build your own community. It's only common sense to remain steadfast and sure. I'm telling you what's real. I'm not telling you no fluff. But then it's like a lot of us say, you know what? We can't do nothing nowadays because we're victims. We're victims. So I want to investigate. I want to investigate that claim, that idea that indeed we are victims, or we may be victims, or this notion of victimhood, or being victims of I don't know, some conspiracy, or victims of karmic destiny, or victims of some madness.
Excuse me. My name is. Can I have the attention of the class for 1 second? My name is
Karma. What is karma? And what I want to speak about right now, Bless, is whether you think that you're a victim, or let's go a little bit deeper. Have you been a victim of violence? Have you been a victim of victimization? Or are you one of these people that victimizes other people? Or do you think that you've been victimized? The definition of the term victim is basically a person or persons who suffers from a destructive or injurious event or agency. Now, by the definition of the term, you could say that you as an individual, we as a community, we as a group, as a culture, as a nation, as a race, are the victims of injury, are the victims of wicked agencies. Because history proves and testifies to the fact that, yes, indeed, we are and can consider ourselves to be victims. Another definition of being a victim is a person who has been attacked, injured, or robbed, or killed. And there again, we as individuals, as communities, as races, as nations of people have been attacked, injured, robbed, and killed, even taken into slavery and kidnapped, body snatched, kidnapped and taken into slavery. So yes, again, we could be considered to be victims. And what happens to victims in modern society? What they tell you is that, what they show us in the mainstream, daydream, poison stream media, is that a victim must embark upon a journey of revenge. And that revenge is a dish that is best served. So you can serve it hot or you can serve it cold. But revenge is a dish that is best served. Enough said, that's what I'm going to say. That's what the modern media shows us. That's what it plays us. That's what it convinces us of. That if you've been a victim, then revenge. Pick almost any film. Let's look at the film Rambo. The first film, First Blood. Rambo was victimized. He was just a lone ex-Vietnam veteran walking on the street, and some bully boy policeman stops him and questions him, wants to stop and search him, and then gives him hassle. Now, how many of us can identify with that?
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
And we want to get Rambo on these police. We want to get our revenge on these police. We want to go buck wild on the devil. We want to get buck wild on a beast. We want to get buck wild on a wild beast. Isn't it? I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. And yes, Mr. Anthony Olatunji, stop being so provocative. I'm going to chill. But just think about that. That analogy of Rambo walking on the street, minding his own business, and police come and jerk him up, arrest him, and smash him up and fling him in jail. So he said, look, General, they drew First Blood, and he went on a mad rampage. He went on a mad escapade of destruction and death, and destroying, and bombs and bullets and knives and hunts, and he had a whale of a time. He had a hell of a time. And that's just an example from way back in the day. But you don't need to go so far back. Look at any modern film. Just choose a film that's got any form of action. Any of these X-Men films, any of these Marvel films, any of these Fast and Furious films. It's all based on revenge. And the victims have to embark upon a quest of gaining some form of malevolent revenge. And they train you to think like that. They train you to have this bad mind, wicked mind intent. They train you to have this malice of forethought. But I've told you that if you want to get rid of demons, if you want to exorcise devils, then the best way to do that is to make sure your speech and your heart and your thoughts remain pure. And that's the real. But the common narrative in media, in films, is that those who have been abused, those who have been misused, those who have been victimized, become full of revenge and anger. And that's the solution. But I would argue that basically that's not really the solution. Can anybody remember watching the film series of Roots? I remember watching that back in the day. Just imagine, can you remember how watching the film Roots, or the series of Roots, made you feel? How did it make you feel? It made you feel that you wanted to go out and get some form of revenge. That you wanted to go out and get some form of justice. That you wanted to go out and seek some... you wanted to go and serve some justice. Some of you. But it left us with that feeling of, malice of forethought, feeling angry, feeling that we need to go and do something. And then good fathers, good mothers, good elders told us, look, that anger, focus that anger. Use that anger as a fuel for your fire, as a source for your course. Because in this life, Janos, you know that If you're going nowhere, any road will take you there. If you're going nowhere, any road will take you there. But if you're going somewhere, then you have to make manifest the divine plan which is inside your mind, which is the mystery. You have to make manifest your desires. Your spirit has to become manifest in the physical to go where you need to go. And you can't do that by harboring grudge or hatred or anger or malevolence or revenge. So family, I say it again. Forgive, we have to live, yes, but we just can't forget. What about, has anybody seen that film, the more recent film, Django, by William Carter, boy, Scorsese? Crazy film, where brothers was in slavery and came out and blatantly was blazing, gun blazing. That was a film showing you that immediate gratification, straight up revenge was the answer.
You really want me to shake your hand? I insist. If you insist.
But they give us these clues and these signs, but this is not the way that we're supposed to stop. This programming, because TV program you, films program you to behave in certain ways or to think in certain ways. This is antithetical, this is anti-God, this is anti-yourself. If you know that the original black man and woman to the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Romans and the Greeks was God, the nature of yourself, the way you used to live, was godlike, and they used to bow down and worship you. But then we gave them 2 degrees, 45 degrees of knowledge, and now they twisted the whole script. They flipped the script and made us worship them. They painted Jesus white by the might of the white nation. They just painted a picture of Michelangelo's people, family and friends, as being Jesus and the rest of them. And every depiction of God or the sun God, they put a European face there. Jesus Christ, they put a white Jesus Christ upon your wall or upon a church wall. If you start worshipping them, then you're confused, you're going to anti-yourself. But if you understand that black man, black woman was the original God of this earth, then you will know that to go to fall sway, to lean into the suggestion and the programming of going for revenge or going for mad malevolence or mad violence or harboring grudges, then you will know that that's antithetical to your self-Lord and Savior. And you are self-Lord and Master. That's going antithetical to yourself. That's antithetical to the teachings, to the mysteries, to the true story. That if you need to go somewhere, wickedness is not going to help you to get there. But this whole common narrative of being a victim is something which is quite, it's quite strange even in some respects. It's quite prevalent in many respects. I wonder why they keep doing it. I wonder why they're trying to program us to think about revenge. There's something in that. I want to play one more track now, whilst I just take a quick break and take a leak and take a quick shake. And this track here is one of my favorite tracks also that needs to go into the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. It's a track entitled When the Gun Draws.
We want to make it clear to black youth that if they want to be revolutionaries, they will be dead revolutionaries.